There are things you don't want to say to other people in front of your kids. Have you figured that out the hard way yet? Most of us do, and then we start to think about it. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and good communication all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we are talking about choosing your words and topics carefully. In this video, we're going to be talking about what happens when you talk in front of your children, and then I'm going to be sharing with you some key things you want to stay away from if you are having conversations with other people in front of the children. I don't know how old your children are, but I've raised mine all the way from baby to adulthood now, and I've noticed that there were times when I thought my children were not paying attention. And come to find out they were. And I made some mistakes. I remember my child saying to me something like, "Mom, why did you tell so-and-so that I did this?" Uh-oh. Now I was found out. But I thought they were in the other room. I thought they were playing with their Legos. I thought their brain was into something else. And I thought they were too young to notice what I was talking about or to even care. Not true. People can do lots of things while still listening at the same time. In fact, what I found is oftentimes when my children are building with something or digging in something, that's when they're listening the best because their mind is at ease to listen because it's engaged in some sort of a repetitive task. Children have big satellite dishes on the sides of their head called ears, and they're listening all of the time. In fact, they gain the majority of their learning and their attachment and their identity by the things that they hear you say, not just to them, but to other people. When they hear you talk to somebody else, that affirms in their mind what they think their identity is. If you have told it to someone else in front of them, it must be true. And if they haven't heard it from you before, all the more reason they will assume they are getting an insight that is true that they may not have known before. So keeping that in mind, we've got to be very careful then about what we talk about in front of our children. So when you talk to other people with your children present, this also gives you a good opportunity to build them up. A lot of people don't know that. I remember being in an activity at our church when I was young. I was there with my mom, and we were working on a craft project with a whole bunch of other ladies. And I remember my mom telling these other ladies, "Oh, Nicholeen is so creative about this," or "She's really good at this. She has a great eye for detail. She knows what looks good." And she kept telling all of these different things to people. And so then people would come and say, "Oh, Nicholeen, can you take a look at this for me? What do you think?" Suddenly I realized my mother had just elevated my status socially with all of these people, but that she actually saw a strength in me that I never knew was there before. Sometimes we don't tell someone else, "Oh, you're super creative," or "You're really good at this or this." We don't just tell someone that. Sometimes we tell somebody else. But when she told somebody else something good about me, that made a big impact on me. I thought, my mom thinks something positive about me. Now, almost any therapist will tell you that if you really want to do good things for your relationship, tell other people nice things about the person that you have a relationship with. So maybe in your marriage relationship or with your children, make sure that you're telling other people those good things. That's the power that talking about someone in front of that person to another person has. But there are definitely things we've got to be careful about when we're talking to our children too. So I don't know if you've recognized, but there are certain things that just we don't want to have conversation-wise in front of children because it might pique interest that we don't want them to have yet. It might give them partial information, and if they don't have the whole information, that could also lead them astray. So I remember one time there was a situation in my neighborhood where a child did something, and my parents talked about a piece of that situation where this child did a pretty drastic behavior. Well, I only heard one piece of it, and I remember going to my friend and saying, "Oh, this happened, and did you know this child did this? And I didn't know that's what happened." And so I was spreading it because it was new information. That's the other thing. Anything that goes to the children into the satellite dishes is going to end up coming back out. They don't know how to just hold stuff in like that. And then you might end up getting frustrated and upset with them because they're not holding in your secret, when in reality we probably shouldn't have been telling them those things anyway. So anyway, I heard my parents talking about a situation. I thought I understood the situation, but I definitely did not understand the situation. I went and told somebody else about the situation, and then the parents of that person were frustrated that I had told their child this particular scenario. My parents didn't even know I had heard them talking about the situation. So then when that parent calls my parents, now suddenly they have to talk to me and explain that I didn't even have the full story. Always keep in mind who could be listening to this, and do they have the full story? Is this something I can share in front of somebody else? Now, occasionally you might have to share something and tell your child, okay, this is not something that's repeated. Be sure to give that information. But there are certain things that parents usually are pretty careful about with their children, things such as sensitive information like that or gossip. Potentially, there are things related to maybe a husband and wife relationship, or maybe related to somebody else's story in the community that just would not be appropriate for children. So you want to check for the appropriateness if you're going to say something in front of your child, and make sure they understand the context of whatever the conversation is going to be. But there are other things that you want to be careful about not talking about in front of your child. Let's say you need to talk with a teacher or a therapist or a coach or someone about the experience that your child seems to be having on the team or in the class or in conversations. That isn't usually best to talk about in front of your child. It's not that you're keeping secrets, but it puts the child on the spot. And that makes them feel now suddenly like there is negative attention that's pointed at them, and they feel uncomfortable. Occasionally, those conversations can be healthy and a burden can be lifted from a person, but we want to use discernment because many times the child ends up feeling like they're not sure how to have a relationship with this person now because their parent was the one who complained, or now their coach knows that they told their parent, and now what's that going to look like? And it just puts them in a hard situation. So be careful about those things too. You want to be careful about lying. Don't lie to other people or dodge situations by lying or doing half-truths or not saying things that really should be said in front of your children. You're trying to teach them about honesty, right? Now, hopefully nobody's lying anyway who's listening to this, but I know some parents feel like, well, I just had to, it was a bill collector, it was a whatever, tell them nobody's home. That's not the kind of thing you want to do. You don't want to tell your children, okay, tell them that nobody is home. When you're standing right there, you don't get them to lie for you, right? So why would you then lie right now in front of your child to somebody else? That shows your child that these morals, these social skills, these virtues that we're learning, like honesty, don't really mean anything. We just use people however we need to get what we want. We could be teaching them the wrong lesson with all of that. And so then when your child starts lying to you, you wouldn't be surprised, I suppose, if you taught the child to lie. Most parents don't recognize the lies they are doing as lies. So be careful to analyze yourself for integrity. in your conversations. Another thing that you probably don't want to talk about with other people when your child is present is bad things that you've done or that your spouse did, maybe when you were younger or something like that, because then your child has to process that without full information, and they may not know what they are processing because, again, they wouldn't have full information. You're talking to somebody else about it. It is a tricky thing because we want our children to learn from our experiences, and so sometimes we need to talk to them about them. But make sure that those conversations are had with the child instead of in front of other people. Or if you are going to explain it in front of other people, make sure that you keep in mind that the child is listening. So you explain it in a way that would actually help the child understand the circumstance. You just don't usually want to air somebody else's dirty laundry in front of your child. That's a lot of burden that the child has to carry, and it's not super healthy. Try to watch sarcasm. Most children don't understand sarcasm anyway, but if you're being sarcastic with another adult, you may think it's funny, the other adult may even laugh about it, but the child might not understand that you're just being sarcastic and you're not really fully serious about what you just said. That could be very misleading to a child and could also think you're a little callous or unfeeling about others. Many parents find that it's kind of tricky or intricate to talk about your financial situation with other people in front of your children. Sometimes children just don't need to know all of that, especially if there's a financial problem that's happening. You probably don't want to unload that on someone in front of your child because then your child's going to be taking that on. The same goes for relationship issues, things related to family dynamics such as divorce, stuff like that. There are things that they need to know and things that they should be told because you obviously want to be as open with them as possible. It's not like we're keeping them in the dark, but we just have to remember that when they're processing what you're talking about, it could seem different to them. So having those conversations directly with them is always going to be best. Another thing you don't want to say to other people in front of your child is how much you don't like parenting. Think of what message that gives to your child. It tells them they shouldn't want to be a parent. That tells them they don't enjoy being with you. It could even suggest that they're a burden or that you don't love them. Be careful about griping and complaining and those types of conversations and comments that you might have with other people. You may think they're funny. People may laugh about it. But in the end, your child is wondering why they aren't wanted. Another thing that you don't want to talk about is you don't want to brag about your child in excess. Bragging is an interesting thing. Parents love to talk about their children to other people. We're all proud of our children. We see the amazing things that they do. Sometimes we even translate them in our brains as more amazing than they probably even are because it's the first time we've been a parent and we're seeing it, right? And sometimes we brag about our children in a way that is a little bit extreme, meaning we're not just stating facts about something that happened, but now we're embellishing with all kinds of descriptive words like genius and amazing and all of this kind of stuff. And suddenly a child is sitting there going, I know I'm not a genius. I know I'm not amazing because I missed 2 words on my spelling test the other day and because I said a mean word to Jackie. They know their flaws, and sometimes if you build them up too high to other people, then they feel like they have to live up to that. They feel like it's impossible. They don't know how to do it. And quite frankly, it's just really overwhelming. If you've enjoyed this video, I'm quite sure that you will enjoy my next video, which is called The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. That is a full-length class that will help you not fall into expectation traps when you are communicating with your children.